about the same 2 months ago that we're talking about. Yeah. During that session when the head of state in that town hall meeting said that from where he sat from, he hadn't received names of people who had been abducted or people who had been disappeared. From those pronouncements, do you believe the president then did not know about those names, and to date he still doesn't have those names?
Thank you so much, first of all, to K24 for hosting this very, very important discussion for the nation. To answer your question, I think that the president's remarks were not made in good light, because I believe that it's public knowledge that people have been killed. I think even if you go to a primary school child, maybe even in the nursery school, they'll tell you that there have been mandamanos in this country and that people have lost their lives and others have been abducted. So for me, it's assured that, you know, the president is confirming that he's out of touch with reality, that he's not properly informed by his people. But even so, I still believe, and as do many Kenyans, that his remarks were not truthful, and that he knows what is happening in the country, but he is using that particular line to cover up for the government in terms of not taking action on the killings and disappearances. Okay,
speaking of the government, now we've seen what transpired with the deputy IG, that is Masengeli, where he was charged for contempt of court. He was expected to appear and answer about the whereabouts of those, the Kitengela 3, who were just recently released. Now, when you're looking at a deputy IG acting in that manner, and fast forward to when the current IG, that is Douglas Kanja, was confirmed, he had a presser the same evening, and in that presser we had the DCI boss present, stating very clearly that the NPS, we do not have anything to do with those abductions. One would ask that these are normal citizens in public eye. What do you think would be the motivation behind the police officers or the government abducting these people?
Let's first of all remind the police, particularly the Inspector General, the DCI and others, that the duty to provide security to every individual as guaranteed by Article 29 of the Constitution of Kenya, the right to security of person, that duty falls squarely on the police. It is not enough for you to say, we don't have these individuals. You have a mandate, you have a responsibility, if you don't have them, to search for them, to look for them, and to ensure that they are returned back to their loved ones. So by and large, that statement, again, in itself, is, you know, basically portraying the ignorance and maybe lack of concern over Kenyan security that the security agencies have in this country. We must remember that we are a country that is governed by a constitution and the rules, the laws of the land. And in so doing, the courts have express authority to interpret the law and to ensure that we all abide by what the law requires us to do. The act by Masengeli to ignore court orders 7 times, mind you, 7 times. We're not talking of once or twice or thrice. We are looking at the same case day after day after day. He absolutely and totally ignored the court's decision to appear before it and to explain the disappearance of the Kitengela 3. This is in itself is a show of utter impunity that is exhibited every other day by police service, by police officers in this country. And this is exactly what we are saying we need to change in this country. Yes.
Now, let's, still on that Kitengela 3, they were released. And naturally, Kenyans or people would expect them to speak about the experiences where they were taken. There was still some sort of secrecy in terms of what they were talking about, not really giving us the substantial facts of who did this to them. It was just, we were kept in secret cells, we were tortured, A, B, and C. Where do you think that emanates from? Is it the shock, or it has more to do with this was instigated by people that these people are scared of about talking about?
Definitely, it's the scare.
Yeah.
Definitely, it's the scare. I'll tell you this because I've talked to various people who are abducted and then released.
Yeah.
And when they speak to you in confidence, they will tell you that they were told, we are releasing you, but should any of the events that occurred or happened to you by any chance appear in the public limelight, then we will come back for you, and this time you will not return. That is what they are told. The information we have is that that same tone of information, maybe in different words, is what was relayed to the Kitengela 3. But we know that you know, these are strong individuals. I think the place Kenyans find themselves in today is a place of no fear.
Yeah.
I mean, tumeuziwa woga for way too long. And we have reached a stage like, you know, what you saw today. Women are even coming forward and confronting the police and saying, no, enough is enough. So the fact of the matter is that people are abducted. Yeah. They are tortured, as was the case for these individuals. They are, you know, made to live in, you know, very, very poor conditions for a number of days. Information we have is that where they were kept, there were also other Kenyans who had been abducted earlier, a couple of months ago, that they saw, you know. So we have a rogue police service that is hosting torture chambers and torture camps in different parts of this country. And, you know, the executive is merely defending them. And this is exactly, as I said, what we are trying to change in this country, a rogue police service that must abide by the law and not operate merely with orders from above.
Well, it seems like year in, year out, we're in the same spot when it comes to the conduct of the police. This very same regime, when they're coming into power, President Ruto promised that he'll not have any interference with regards to the executive pertaining to policing activities. But when you're looking at what we're having on a day-to-day basis, it's basically the same thing. So from where you sit from, for us to move forward and not necessarily be in the same position and speak about the same things over and over with regards to the police, what needs to change and how are we moving forward from this point?
I've said this before and I'm saying it again. The police in this country is everything that is wrong with Kenya. Yeah. We have a police service that does not respect the constitution or the laws of the land. They merely operate at the behest of the executive. They take orders from the president, they take orders from ministers instead of following the law. So this time round, we are very clear. Yeah. And I think you've said it. We've repeated these sentiments over and over again. But where we find ourselves today, we're saying things must change. It will not be business as usual. As individuals who are very much in you know, the movement, we are saying change must come. You cannot stop an idea whose time has come. We are a generation, remember, the Gen Zs are individuals who have been through the free primary education. We've had, you know, going to universities. They have lived under the new constitution, not like some of us or maybe those who are older than us who went through those dark days and are still scared. The Gen Z generation is a free, liberal movement and generation that do not appreciate in any way being, you know, boxed inside a certain way of doing things. These are minds that are open and they have decided. And we will back them up and we will stand with them. And this time round, I believe it will not be the rhetoric that we have seen in the past.
All right, now, today you presented those names at Harambee House. Before we get to the 7-day ultimatum, you had a booked official appointment with the principal administrative secretary to the office of the president. But when you're making your way there, you find rogue police officers trying to interfere and sort of intimidate you. Did it in any way sort of put you in terms of questioning the genuineness of this meeting in terms of presenting these names to whoever they are to be presented to.
Yeah, so when first of all, I just want to confirm that it's correct. We had an appointment. We actually spoke to the office. The secretary confirmed that, the principal administrative secretary had meetings in the morning, because initially we had planned to go there at 11 o'clock, and that he had requested that we go see him at 2:30. A fine gentleman. When we met him, he welcomed us to the boardroom. But when we got at the gate, we were communicating through the security officer's phone, and he wanted just a few people because he said he doesn't have enough space in his office. So he had requested like 5 or 6 people to go in, but we were 15. So I tried to convince him on the phone, and then he said, why don't you come up so that I understand why you want more people and you're merely presenting a list. So when I went upstairs to explain to him that, we have representatives of families that of victims of extrajudicial killings, families of persons who've been disappeared, we have some activists, and he agreed. When we were up there now, we were discussing, so where will we host the 15, whether it's the boardroom or something like that. Downstairs, we have there's a group of rogue police officers that are notorious. We keep seeing them in protests, and they're masked, and in several occasions we've tried to unmask them. So we know their faces. The same group, wanted to thwart what we were trying to do, probably to present the list. And they wanted to cause commotion, get a few people arrested, so that now we stop doing what we were doing and start following up on those who were arrested. And they came in there and they started roughing people up. Actually, a number of colleagues were beaten up. Shakira, was kicked in the chest by one of these rogue officers. But they stood firm and they said, no, you're not going to arrest any of us. So by the time I came downstairs, they had already arrested Ojiro, one of our colleagues, that put him in the Land Rover. And, we said we are going in because you're not going to deter us from what we were originally planning to do. Because their intention was to divert us to other interests. So we went inside, and when we got inside, we told the PS, before anything else, first of all, please make sure our colleague is released so that he can come and join us. And, they made some phone calls. The colleague was released, and he joined us at the meeting.
Khalid, in just under 30 seconds, you've given them a 7-day ultimatum. If you don't see any sort of action moving forward, it's back to the streets. What sort of action are you expecting within this 7 days? It's definitely
back to the streets. We spoke to Mr. Osia. Of course, he said he cannot commit the government because the investigations and other actions will be taken by other officers in different offices. But he did tell us that we can come back to find out what is happening. So we told him we'll be back in 7 days' time. And we are hoping that there will be action. As I speak right now, I'm informed that one of the family members whose person had disappeared has received a phone call to be informed that her son might be in a hospital, and apparently she was called by a police officer.
So this is progress?
So we expect this is progress. We're expecting things to move fast, but within 7 days, of course, we will be back there. And if no action is taken, then yes, we're back to the streets.
Hussein, best of luck with that.
Thank you so much.
As you've heard it right there from Hussein Khalid, they've given the government 7 days to show some sort of action with regards to the families who are calling on the government to look into the missing persons and people who have disappeared, and of course just generally giving justice to those also who lost their loved ones during those Gen Z demonstrations. That was Hussein Khalid, a human rights activist as well as the CEO of Vocal Africa. Let's take a break. We'll get back with some sports news.
Jumbo Kenya. This is Glenn Washington. I will be performing live for you and yours with my band at the Africa Bound Reggae Summer Fest.